My heart was a hummingbird that day, trapped right there in my chest, fluttering so fast I thought it might fly away. It was Leo's graduation, my son, our son, and Mark was there. My Mark. That alone was a miracle, a fragile, precious thing I held onto with both hands. You see, Mark didn't do crowds. Not since, well, not for a long time. Large gatherings, loud noises, even too much joyful chaos, they were all triggers, echoes of a past he fought to keep silent. He lived with shadows, my Mark did. Shadows that clung to him, that sometimes made his eyes distant and his smile a rare, precious gift. So, for him to be here in this packed auditorium was a monumental effort, a testament to his love for Leo. He sat beside me, a little stiff in his best shirt, the one I'd ironed twice. His knuckles were already white where he gripped the worn wooden armrest of his seat. I could see the tiny muscle twitching in his jaw, a telltale sign he was battling his nerves. But his gaze, when it rested on the stage where Leo would soon appear, was filled with a fierce, unwavering pride. A father's love, pure and strong. That love, I knew, was his anchor. His reason for fighting those daily battles. Leo. Our boy, he'd worked so hard for this. Late nights studying, early mornings for extra practice. He wore his ambition with a quiet grace, much like his father. He deserved this day, this moment of triumph. All the graduates did, their bright, hopeful faces a sea of promise. The air buzzed with their infectious excitement, with the collective pride of 1,000 parents, grandparents, friends. It felt normal. And for our little family, after everything we'd been through, normal was a victory, a hard-won peace. I tried to soak it in, this feeling of ordinary joy. I prayed it would last. The initial speeches started. The class valedictorian, a bright young woman with a nervous smile. The school board representative, a little long-winded. The usual things, bright futures, hard work, the power of dreams. I reached for Mark's hand, lacing my fingers through his. He squeezed back. A small secret comfort shared between us. A silent acknowledgement of the mountain he'd climbed to be here. Then Principal Davis stepped to the microphone. He was a kind man, usually, known for his warm smile and easygoing manner. But today, that smile seemed a little too tight, a little strained. Before we proceed with awarding the diplomas, he began. His voice, amplified by the speakers, echoed in the suddenly hushed auditorium. We have a rather unexpected matter to address. My breath caught in my throat. An unexpected matter. My eyes flew to Mark. His head had snapped up, his brow furrowed in confusion. Then a flicker of something else. Worry. The flutter in my chest turned into a cold, heavy dread. What could it be? At a graduation? This wasn't right. This wasn't part of the program. The principal cleared his throat, a dry, rasping sound that seemed too loud in the heavy silence. The silence in that vast auditorium was absolute. You could hear the nervous shuffle of feet, the rustle of a program. A baby's soft cry quickly hushed. Everyone sensed it. Something was off. It has come to our attention, he continued, his words slow, deliberate, each one landing like a stone in my stomach, that we have a particular guest in the audience today. He paused, his gaze sweeping across the packed rows of faces. My mind raced. A guest? Who? What did this mean? Was someone in trouble? Had there been an incident? My protective instincts sharpened. Was Leo okay? I saw a few heads turn, craning to see. Whispers started to ripple through the rows like a sudden breeze before a storm. Mark shifted beside me. He sank a little lower in his seat, as if trying to make himself smaller, invisible. His knuckles were bone white where he gripped the armrest. He hated being the center of attention, hated surprises, especially public ones. They reminded him too much of other times, other places, where being singled out meant danger. I tried to send him a calming thought, a wave of reassurance. It's okay. It's probably nothing. A minor announcement, but my own heart was pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. This felt like more than nothing. This guest, Principal Davis said, his eyes still scanning the crowd, seeming to linger for a moment on our section. My heart jumped. Is someone whose past actions have recently come to light? Oh no. My blood ran cold. Past actions? Mark's past was a landscape of courage and pain, full of shadows he rarely spoke of, even to me, things he fought every day to keep locked away behind a carefully constructed wall. Was this about his service? Had someone said something, misunderstood something? Had one of his nightmares, one of his invisible wounds, somehow become public? My stomach twisted into a tight, painful knot. This was supposed to be Leo's day, a happy day, a celebration of his future. Not this public scrutiny, this dredging up of a painful past. I risked a glance at Leo. He was on the stage with the other graduates, his cap slightly askew. He looked puzzled, his young face etched with a growing anxiety. He caught my eye, and I tried to give him a reassuring smile. It felt weak, fake, like a mask that was about to crack. The principal continued, his voice unwavering. He was been contacted by certain authorities. Authorities? My mind screamed. What authorities? Why? Mark was a good man. A decorated veteran, yes. But more than that, a kind, gentle soul who wouldn't hurt a fly. He'd served his country with honor. What could they possibly want with him now? Here at his son's graduation. The word authorities hung in the air, heavy with implication. Mark's face was pale, almost ashen. He was staring straight ahead, his expression unreadable. But I knew him. I saw the subtle retreat in his eyes. He was going into that place inside himself where no one could reach him. The fortress he'd built to withstand the assaults of memory. The place he went when the memories got too loud, too real. And while this is a day of celebration, Principal Davis said, and his voice seemed to harden, to take on a stern official tone, he cannot as an institution ignore serious matters. Serious matters? It felt like the floor was dropping out from under me. My carefully constructed composure was crumbling. What was happening? This was a nightmare. A public unraveling of the peace we had fought so hard to build. I wanted to stand up, to scream, to shield Mark from whatever was coming, to protect Leo's precious day from being tainted. But I was frozen, rooted to my seat by a paralyzing dread. The principal's gaze seemed to sweep over our section again, more deliberately this time. Was he looking for someone specific? For Mark? I felt a wave of nausea wash over me. Please God, let this not be about him. Please, let this be a terrible misunderstanding. Then the principal's eyes stopped. They locked onto someone, near us. Or, was it us? My heart hammered against my ribs. Sergeant Mark Olson, Principal Davis said. His voice was loud, clear, unmistakable. Each syllable a hammer blow, the name hung in the air, heavy, final. Mark flinched. A small, almost imperceptible movement, as if he'd been physically struck. Every head in our vicinity, and many beyond, turned, staring, whispering. I felt their eyes on us, burning, curious, judging. My hand flew to my mouth, a choked gasp escaping. Sergeant Mark Olson, that was my Mark, my husband. He didn't move, didn't speak. He just sat there, shoulders hunched, as if bracing for a blow. The blow he'd perhaps been expecting his whole life since coming home from the war. The one that said he wasn't good enough, that his past would always define him, always haunt him. I reached for his hand. It was ice cold, clammy. Mark, I whispered, my voice trembling. He didn't look at me. His eyes were distant, haunted, lost in a battlefield only he could see. On the stage, I saw Leo stand up slightly from his seat among the graduates. His face was a mask of confusion, disbelief, and dawning fear. Dad? He mouthed, his voice lost in the shocked silence of the auditorium. My heart broke into a million pieces for both of them. For my brave, broken husband. For my innocent, bewildered son. The principal took a deep breath, letting the weight of the name settle. Sergeant Olson, he repeated, his tone firm. Could you please stand? Stand? Why? So everyone could gawk at him. So he could be publicly shamed. Humiliated? What had he supposedly done? My protective instincts flared with a fierce, desperate intensity. I wanted to shout, leave him alone. He's done nothing wrong. But Mark, bless his brave, tormented heart, slowly, shakily, got to his feet. He straightened his shoulders, pulled himself up tall as he could, carrying the invisible weight of his past. The soldier in him, long dormant, took over, facing the unknown. Again, as he had done so many times before, the auditorium was utterly unnervingly silent. 1,000 pairs of eyes were fixed on Mark. My Mark, standing there in the aisle, alone, exposed, waiting for the verdict, for the axe to fall. Principal Davis looked at him, a long, unreadable look, and then, his stern expression. It began to soften, a subtle shift around his eyes, a relaxing of his jaw, a small, almost imperceptible change. But I saw it, and a tiny fragile seed of hope sprouted in my frozen heart. "Sergeant Olson," he said, and his voice was different now, softer, deeper, filled with something I couldn't quite name. "Respect? Oh, we were recently contacted." He paused, letting the anticipation build. "By the Department of Defense." My heart leaped into my throat, then plummeted again. The Department of Defense. This could go either way. Terribly wrong. Or what? My mind couldn't fathom a positive outcome from such a terrifying preamble. The principal continued, his voice gaining a new resonance. "It seems a certain file was declassified. Only last month. A mission report. From many years ago." Mark's eyes widened almost imperceptibly, just a fraction. But I saw it, a flicker of recognition, of memory. He knew what the principal was talking about. I could feel the tension radiating off him, a palpable force in the air around us. The air crackled with it. A mission where Sergeant Olson and his unit faced overwhelming odds. The principal's voice grew stronger, more resonant, filling the auditorium. Deep in enemy territory, cut off, outnumbered. He painted a vivid picture with his words, and I found myself holding my breath. This was a part of Mark I had never known. A door he had kept firmly closed. A mission where Sergeant Olson, the principal, paused for dramatic effect, his gaze unwavering on Mark, performed acts of extraordinary heroism, above and beyond the call of duty. Heroism. My mind reeled. The word hung in the air, shimmering. I knew Mark was brave. I knew he'd seen combat. But he never ever talked about the specifics. He carried his burdens silently, deflecting any questions with a quiet sadness. "He saved the lives of 3 of his comrades," the principal declared, his voice ringing with conviction, "under heavy enemy fire. After being wounded himself, he repeatedly exposed himself to danger to pull his injured men to safety. He then coordinated their rescue, ensuring they were evacuated first, downplaying his own injuries so as not to delay their treatment." Pricked my eyes, blurring my vision. Mark, my quiet, unassuming Mark. The man who sometimes struggled just to get through the day. He'd done that, he'd been that kind of hero, the kind you read about in books, or see in movies. It was almost too much to comprehend. The principal paused again, letting the weight of his words sink in. He looked directly at Mark, a profound respect in his eyes. "Sergeant Mark Olson, it has taken far too long for your bravery to be fully and publicly recognized. But today, on the day your son graduates, a day you fought so hard to be here to see, we have been asked, on behalf of a grateful nation, to present you with this." And then, from behind the podium, Principal Davis produced a small dark blue velvet box. He opened it reverently. Inside, nestled on a bed of white satin, was a medal. It glinted and shone under the bright stage lights. A silver star. My vision blurred completely with tears. The silence in the auditorium was broken. Not by whispers this time, but by a collective indrawn breath. A gasp of awe. Then, a sound I never ever expected. Applause. It started slowly. A few hesitant claps from the front rows. Then more, and more, spreading like a wildfire, until the entire auditorium was on its feet, applauding, roaring their approval. For Mark, my hero. Mark stood frozen, utterly stunned. His face was a canvas of conflicting emotions, disbelief, shock, a dawning fragile hope. He looked around the auditorium, at the sea of standing clapping people, as if unsure this was real, as if he might wake up any moment from a strange dream. The applause washed over him, wave after wave of warmth, of respect, of gratitude. He looked at me, his eyes wide, shining with unshed tears. Tears I knew he rarely allowed himself. And in their depths, I saw years of buried pain begin to recede, replaced by a hesitant, astonished relief. I was crying openly now, silent tears streaming down my face. Tears of shock, of overwhelming relief, of a pride so immense it filled my entire being. Leo. I frantically searched for Leo on the stage. He was standing too, his graduation cap clutched in his hand, his face beaming streaked with his own tears. He was clapping harder than anyone, his eyes fixed on his father with an expression of pure unadulterated adoration. He mouthed, "Dad, I'm so proud of you, so proud." Principal Davis, his own eyes suspiciously bright, beckoned Mark towards the stage. "Sergeant Olson, please, come up." Mark looked at me again, a silent question in his tear-filled eyes. "Can I? Should I?" I nodded, my smile watery but wide. "Go," I whispered, my voice choked with emotion. "Go on, you deserve this." He took a tentative step, then another. He walked down the aisle, and towards the steps of the stage. Not like a man condemned, as I had feared just moments before, but like a man finally being seen, truly seen, for the hero he was, and always had been. The applause continued. A thunderous sustained ovation. It was a wave of love, of respect, for this quiet, unassuming man, who had carried so much, for so long, in such profound silence. He reached the stage, moving as if in a daze. Principal Davis shook his hand firmly, his grip conveying a deep respect. Then, with great care, he took the silver star from its box, and pinned it to Mark's shirt, right over his heart. Mark looked down at it, his calloused fingers reaching up to touch the cool metal gently, as if it might vanish, if he wasn't careful, as if he still couldn't believe it was real. The principal stepped back, a warm smile on his face. He gestured for Mark to approach the microphone, to say something. Mark looked out at the vast crowd, at all those faces, now beaming at him. He looked at Leo, who was practically vibrating with pride. He looked at me, and I tried to send him all the love and strength I possessed. He cleared his throat, the sound amplified in the expectant hush. His voice when he finally spoke, was thick with emotion, raspy and unsure. "I don't really know what to say." He paused, took a shaky breath, visibly trying to compose himself. I did what I had to do, what anyone would have done for their brothers." The crowd murmured their disagreement. "No," they seemed to say, "not just anyone." Mark continued, his voice gaining a little strength, a little more steadiness. "The real heroes are the ones who didn't come home. Their names are the ones we should remember." He paused, his gaze sweeping over the audience, then finding mine again, and I knew he was thinking of all the years, all the unspoken struggles, all the quiet battles, fought in the dead of night, and the families, his voice cracked, who wait, and who support us when we do come home. Changed. He looked at Leo then, a father's boundless love shining in his eyes. "And, my son, Leo, this is your day. I'm so incredibly proud of you. More than words can say." Leo was openly sobbing now, a mixture of overwhelming joy and profound pride. Mark's words were simple, humble, just like him. He wasn't a man for grand speeches, but his sincerity, his raw, unfiltered emotion, it touched every single person in that room, binding us all together in a shared moment of humanity. The applause erupted again, if possible even louder this time. It was a tidal wave of sound, of emotion, washing away the last vestiges of fear and anxiety. Mark stepped back from the microphone, clearly overwhelmed, but there was a new lightness about him. A burden, unseen but carried for so long, had visibly lifted from his shoulders. His eyes, though still tear-filled, held a clarity, a peace I hadn't seen in decades. Principal Davis smiled warmly, placing a supportive hand on Mark's shoulder. "Thank you, Sergeant Olson. Thank you for your incredible service, and thank you for sharing this extraordinary moment with us." He then turned back to the graduates, his voice filled with a renewed infectious cheerfulness. "And now," he said, his smile wide, "let's get back to the important business of graduating these remarkable young men and women." The ceremony continued. The names were called, diplomas awarded, but everything felt different. The atmosphere in the auditorium was transformed. The air was charged, not with tension, as it had been before, but with a palpable sense of awe, with gratitude, with a deeper understanding of sacrifice, courage, and the quiet strength that can reside in ordinary people. Each graduate walking across the stage seemed to carry themselves a little taller, their smiles a little brighter, perhaps inspired by the unexpected display of heroism they had just witnessed. When Leo's name was finally called, Leo Michael Olson, a special cheer went up from the crowd. He walked across the stage, with a confident stride, his face glowing. He shook the principal's hand. He took his diploma, holding it high for a moment, and then he did something completely unscripted, something that melted every heart in the room. He walked directly over to Mark, who was still standing at the side of the stage, the silver star gleaming on his chest. Leo didn't hesitate. He wrapped his arms around his father in a long, tight hug, right there, in front of everyone. The applause started again, softer this time, more tender, a gentle wave of shared emotion. "I love you, Dad," Leo whispered, his voice thick but clear enough for the microphone to pick up. "You're my hero, always have been." Mark hugged him back fiercely, his face buried in Leo's shoulder. I don't think there was a single dry eye left in that entire auditorium. Mine certainly weren't. They were overflowing. The rest of the graduation was a beautiful emotional blur, a blur of happy tears, of immense pride, not just for Leo and his accomplishments, but for Mark, for our family, for the unexpected, terrifying and ultimately wonderful turn of events that had transformed a day of celebration into something even more profound, something unforgettable, a healing. After the ceremony, it felt like the whole world wanted to speak to Mark. People came up to him, strangers and acquaintances alike, fellow veterans, young students, tearful mothers, proud fathers, shaking his hand, clapping him on the back, thanking him for his service, thanking him for his courage. He was still awkward, still shy in the face of such attention, but he smiled. A real genuine smile, one that reached his tired eyes and lit them up from within. Leo stayed by his side throughout, his arm thrown proudly around his dad's shoulders, beaming at everyone who approached. He was his father's staunchest supporter, his biggest fan. That day my Mark didn't just attend his son's graduation. He was given back a piece of himself, a piece he thought was lost forever in the fog of war and the shadows of memory. The principal's words, which had initially stopped the ceremony cold with a bone-chilling fear, had ended up warming every single heart in that room, thawing old griefs and planting new seeds of hope. It was a powerful, unexpected reminder that heroes walk among us every day, often in silence, often carrying invisible wounds that no one else can see. And sometimes all it takes is a moment of recognition, a moment of shared truth, a surprising announcement, to change everything, to bring light into the darkest of corners. Life is so full of surprises, isn't it? Just when you think you know exactly how things will go, something happens, something that stops you in your tracks, something that takes your breath away, something that reminds you of the incredible courage, the deep love, and the profound resilience that can be found in the most unexpected people and the most unlikely places. Mark's story and Leo's graduation will forever be a cherished, pivotal chapter in our family's heart. A day that started with a heart full of fluttering nervousness and ended with an ocean of pride, healing, and a renewed faith in the goodness of others. It was a day the silence was broken, not by fear, but by a long overdue acknowledgement of bravery. What did you think of Mark's incredible story? Have you ever witnessed an unexpected moment that completely changed the atmosphere or someone's life? We'd love to hear your own experiences and thoughts in the comments below. If this story touched your heart, please show your support by giving it a like, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming and inspiring stories just like this one. And please share this video with someone who might need a little reminder of the quiet heroes around us and the power of recognition. Thank you so much for listening.